Stockwell.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for being
here.
Yeah,
glad to be here.
Yeah. Let's get started. How did you start playing?
Yeah, I started a band before I ever picked up the guitar. I came up in the antenna punk scene of the mid to late 80s. I just was drawn to that kind of urgent style of music because it was so accessible. Everything I'd been led to believe about music before that had been that, like, oh, music is played by special people who have event staff and like management, and you play for years honing your craft, and hopefully somebody gets your demo and decides to kind of like turn you into a rock star. And I found the urgency of the Memphis punk scene to just be so immediate, and I could go to the Antenna Club and see bands comprised of people my own age, not asking for permission, but just doing it. And from a stylistic standpoint, the very first thing that I latched onto that made me realize from a playing perspective that the bar was very low is just the realization that the power chord goes everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, if you know this guy, you're in the club.
Yeah.
And the other thing early on was octaves. So, especially the two guitar interplay, there's this band called Trusty, they're from Little Rock, and seeing the guitar interplay of two guitars and having one hold down, the power chords and the other play, octaves over it. To me, octaves were the precursor to any type of lead work, because they kind of function in the same way as they play off the main rhythm.
Yeah.
But they're not, you don't have to be great at guitar. You don't even have to be good. You just have to be able to mute the middle string.
Yeah.
So there were a couple things early on that I learned just from being able to be 5 feet away from a musician playing music, which is not something that's an option in the kind of like traditional, like you're 1,000 feet away, behind the event staff, and it was so urgent and real that I could be as close as we are, and I could go, this song's awesome, wait, what's he doing? Oh, that, well, that's easy, he's just doing this. What I found in bands like Minor Threat and 7 Seconds and Agnostic Front and Corrosion of Conformity and Uniform Choice and a million others, Battalion Saints, Bad Brains, was this unbelievably urgent, fast, brutal music from these people who didn't ask permission at all, and you're like, wow, that's cool, I can join that club like right now, and it's like, but the difference between that and speed metal for me was that it was actually people singing like from their hearts about stuff they cared about, and that for me was, I kind of like that was like, this is the music for me, this is the music that drives me. And then seeing the local version of it and realizing here are people in my own city who are doing this, and I can see them close up, and that's not hard. I could do that.
What was sort of starting Pezz like? What was sort of the climate of both, your personal life and Memphis and everything, but also, what was just the process of forming the band? Like, like you said, you hadn't even started playing yet.
I think the original impetus for wanting to be in a band was really about the community and the meaning behind the music that was coming out. But in the late 80s, if you wanted to explore this crazy urgent thing called punk rock, there was this really scary place that you had to go to that had Nazi skinheads there and stuff. I mean, you went in there feeling like, I'm in danger. But it was so exciting that you just went ahead and rolled the dice. I do feel like there is something unique to Memphis, where we're somewhat immune from national trends. Not totally, of course, but I think that like Memphis was just doing its own thing, and I really got a lens into this more when Pezz started touring a lot, where we would just live in the tour van for months on end and just play city after city after city after city for months, and you meet the people, and I found that year after year, we would run into the particular type of band that was hot right then. You know, like when NoFX was huge, like every band sounded exactly like NoFX. And like a few years later, when like the pop punk thing and like Screeching Weasel was huge, it's like, hey, they're a bunch of Screeching Weasel clones, you know? And I felt like Memphis always had this just kind of crazy, eclectic, funky, almost kind of not right, but awesome, but so right, you know, kind of vibe. It's skewed. I mean, you know, in other words, Memphis doesn't consider itself a big deal at all, and there's a good side to that and a bad side to that. The bad side is we overlook our treasures, we overlook our current crop of amazing artists. The whole like barrier of fan and musician mentality, at least my participation in it has just been almost non-existent. And if you do run into somebody who cops an attitude like they're really something special, they're probably somebody who hasn't lived here all that long, because that shit just does not play in Memphis. Like, get over yourself, man. You're in Memphis, man.
When you were out on tour and everything, what was sort of the reception you would get when you would meet other musicians and say, we're from Memphis? What was sort of that like? Was it, different? Did people react in a certain way, or was it, just about Memphis?
Sure. Well, no, I'd say I'd answer that in two different ways. In the U.S., not really any response that's any different. There's some band on tour, but when we toured Europe, you just have a sense of how large Memphis looms. We played shows where people were just tripping out that they were even talking to people from Memphis.
Really?
We would have people that, I can't wait to tell my brother I met somebody from Memphis.
Oh, man.
Can I take my picture with you? Like people who like didn't even see our set. They didn't even care what we sounded like. This dude's from Memphis.
You meet sort of guitar players of different genres and things. Do you still feel like you have something in common with them because of the Memphis connection? Like you and Steve are both Memphis natives and have been here, your whole lives. Do you feel like, something about that bonds y'all more so than some other place, and just the coincidence factor of being from the same place? But
I think the answer is yes. There's a familial kind of vibe in Memphis amongst Memphis musicians. There's a kinship. Again, another thing that kind of like casts that in relief is going on tour and meeting bands from other cities, and like just the subject of conversation, the line of inquiry. When you're like in the green room before the show or whatever, and you're just chit chatting, and like some band from LA is asking you very pointed questions about your career goals, and like it's very like, what's your strategy? And it's like, honestly, maybe Memphis would be better off if we had a little bit more strategy. But my point is, like, a Memphis musician's kind of all like, that's kind of serious talk to like just be like, I don't know. I mean, it's like, if we have a strategy, I'm not going to sit here and talk to some stranger about it in a green room. It's just like it's a little bit untoward, if you will. We'd rather just meet people as folks. I love Memphis music broadly, but I love the people behind that so much, because it's a family.
Yeah, really. That's beautiful. That really is, because especially nowadays we have music and it's so, it so suits. There's so many there's so many middlemen, and it's filtered through all these different things, and that's cool that Memphis.
Memphis music, you're right. See, my Memphis music experience is very much the anti-suits end of things. The part of music that's pure is the part that's not connected to that more calculating way of thinking. It's about the earnest approach to the guitar and saying, what could this possibly do? Like if I just put my hands on here and start singing about what I've been living through, what's going to come out? Yeah. What's going to come out when I have this band of brothers around me and we're like kicking a song around? What's going to happen if we've got a show with these other bands? And what are we going to talk about? I mean, it's just it's organic and real, and that's the only part that I want to participate in.
Yeah. So when you were first sort of starting out, who are sort of some mentors for you who kind of brought you into the scene and you know, taught you a few things, whether it was, you know, being on the stage, whether it was about the instrument itself, you know, things like that?
Sure. I was inspired to be in a band because of seeing local bands. I liked bands that weren't from Memphis, and you know, people made me mixtapes and stuff, and I kind of got exposed to all that stuff like that. But like the ones that really made me want to be in a band were local bands. Sobering Consequences, Trusty, which is from Little Rock, Econochrist, also from Little Rock, and those are the bands that I thought, I'd love to do that. But there was also this band there was a band called Slit Wrist, and they were practicing over at there was a duplex, and my drummer at the time, or the guy who would be our first drummer, he knew that I wanted to form a band, but I was being really kind of, oh gosh, I don't know, you know, like I like it, but I don't really know how to play an instrument. And he's like, all right, well, cool. So he's like, hey man, let's go watch Slit Wrist practice, you know. And so we're watching them practice, and I'm thinking, this is really cool. I'm getting to hang out with these guys, like having band practice. Yeah. And at the end of their band practice, see, Nick, our original drummer, had cooked it up with the band to play the Minor Threat theme song because he knew I knew how to sing it.
Cool.
So Tim Ramage, the singer for Slit Wrist, makes a big deal, saying, "Now, the special guest vocalist Marvin Stockwell," you know, and he hands me the mic, and like they start playing the Minor Threat's theme song, and I went for it. And I'm like, I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it this many years. Look at that.
Yeah.
Hair is like standing on end because the experience is electric. And when you first all of a sudden realize that you're fronting this visceral, you know, powerful, urgent, sweaty thing, you know, and even it was just a cover, right? Yeah. It's just the Minor Threat theme song, but I'm grabbing the mic and, you know, stomping around the room, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, and that type of adrenaline rush, I was hooked. I knew then we had to be in a band. I didn't know how to play guitar at all, but that was a really formative lesson for me.
And so, if you could speak on sort of what you're involved with right now, with, you know,
yeah. So Pezz is still a band.
Yeah.
And
26 years.
Yeah. First show June 11th, 1990 at the Singleton Community Center in Bartlett.
Very cool.
We played the antenna later that year for the first time. Pezz probably manages to play 8 to 10 shows a year now. We've got our 5th full-length album coming out. We've got the test pressings back from the pressing plant, and we're just like working on artwork, but it'll probably come out this fall.
Are there any new songs on the new album that you're pretty stoked about?
Oh, I mean, gosh, I'm more proud. I'm really, really proud of this forthcoming album.
What sort of messages or what sort of thing would you be able to sort of project onto the public, you know, like you said with the Church Health Center and things, sort of broader issues like that? Do you feel a responsibility to sort of, you know, like I said, represent those and, you know, have a call to action for those causes in your music and everything? Clearly,
I care about the issue of uninsured musicians. I mean, uninsured musicians are only a subset of uninsured people broadly, and everybody deserves, you know, the same level of care in my book if the world were just, but it's not, and we're working on it. So working at the Church Health Center might seem like, well, it's a faith-based healthcare center. What does that have to do with music? We thought we'd throw a benefit show called it Rock for Love, and then we were really overwhelmed again by that generosity of the Memphis music scene. And what we found out was they had never been asked to give back to the center in a context that was all about what they do. The kind of like niche that I found is that I was able to leverage my participation in the Memphis music scene, and our co-founders J.D. Rieger and Jeff Hewlett, also, you know, players in the Memphis music scene, were able to, like, we had that credibility So then all the bands trusted us and then volunteered their time, and it all just worked. So that's gratifying for two ways. A, it's helping connect people to care. That's gratifying. But it's also gratifying to see the Memphis music scene that I love so much being so awesome.
Yeah.
And getting back, it's awesome.
For sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
yeah,
being
yeah.
on the show.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Mr. Marvin Stockwell, thank you all very much.
Thanks, y'all.